Miss Charlene. Ako ka sa meeting ng elito kasi ngilangan ng dirgatsin sa Anklil, makmundiya kang galong Marsal de Basil. Original last name. Umalungil itasil si Mumurtial hearing, confirmation hearing na Miss Charlene Mersai. Niyablil appoint ringil mo dala PPUC Board of Public Utilities and Corporations Board of Directors. Kami tingil tal asaning tal lurior yung nasabihin lusul mga Charlene Michael Cook sponsoringin Michael Selva Birnorngi yung nasabihin mo arin sa tagi del meeting mo damang asulim kilingil mo may attend taliring tasils akti mo introduce our members sa Obangere lang kanya Senator Cuartey Senator Tabalwal mga Adala malukad mo sa magititede, hindi ko mamaya umtira Senate, komitira Senate, conducted talirin lang mo. Ay gil mo mamdure lalsil, sa ikiya mo, kung ano mas wala kami tin mo report mo raw mo, yung nga karay Mario, chairman ng telekomitira, Energy, Public Utilities and Telecommunications. Hindi ako sakal sa mga debrangim, sakal mga clear telekomitira. Makting mga sulim yung ati alam maskaw makukti mo kura introduce argaw sipel mo opening statement argaw malubing gel rogul kura reason sa suamal may silmera senate lo asing raul mo kumangutel kagilingan tal appointment awlali wala
Maraming sulang. First of all, lorang asilin miskakatial for the extension of submitting again responses nga. Makam makita timing is receive mle na mis communication misunderstanding on my part. When I realized sa mis deadline akwasi oh my gosh nga kalate girls of Erel. So I appreciate mis kaka extension. And to be honest, chair sir I'll request the president o sigira mo member request na kal mo member board Akuramle bigikling right now government kita man makasaraat mal exodus sa government workers ya obisra mamara budget and planning we're struggling to maintain RIOR so akulumtas say maybe it's not the right time after some thought no realize it was bela mal there's never going to be a right time there's always going to be one reason or another and that it's a better pick up a RIOR with that understanding, I realized it was I should thank the president for considering me to be on the board because of my specific position in our government. Firstly, coming into conservation and focus on natural resources. And over the 20 years I've been in government, may sang evolution ra threat target namo beyond the natural resources, namo beyond the overfishing, pollution. Kung namura urban space mal limited understanding so gumestra kama malmurut awira conservation ng umasin dira kama trained work experience kama nga sa the traditional conservation the natural resources mal makasaya nga tagido urban so seldo siga report madeira dorura report respe adeira mal mere nga kal in my role as national environment coordinator Akmelet ang identify sa tang akpuri mala information, emelet provide asumang available. It's a little different when it comes to water and energy. I tend to go to PUC, malubeng to other public works, and most of the information that I require, pera collect or takadaram na collect hindi kada maintain data properly. And so I feel like Belaw's priorities I'm not evolve mo. Girel flow attention on more urban related issues such as energy and water. Hindi ka naman din makasay. So, root or telurior. I think already as National Environment Coordinator, working with multiple stakeholders, would give me that sort of a unique position to bridge whatever expertise we have environment and more take the new environmental threat, which is urban. So, say number one, I feel I can contribute to this board. Second one is I happen to be involved in climate change work or Belao. And almost in the lurir climate change it's equally involving international as much as national. And then ako nam tigingin was every time those are the climate change and blool malkloa cost. Whether it's capacity building or funding to maintain a coastal erosion, whatever it is, malkloa although those pairingi that we cannot successfully achieve a support outside. And once again, we need our other bela root our Zabri lumes the issues on the ground and access more international support. So Segit again, I feel like my position I can provide that bridge. And then finally, one of the gaps that our office budget and planning try to fill as quickly as possible is Segit the data management. Mring articulate issues manage the more international donors. Alakal well documented issues facts. And that's another thing that I'm also trying to be involved in. So the 3 areas that I happen to be working on at that time, I think give me a really good position to come in and study because those at that time. What PUC needs today may have been different from 5 years ago, may have been different from 10 years ago, and it might be different a few years from now. But at that time, I feel like what I'm doing would be a nice starting point. I'll stop there.
Yang ngani ako ra question mo na Miss Charlene ba Senator Quarte?
Malun sulang chair malun tasil sin ako na Charlene ko Miss Mersai. Di mo Charlene ako mandangal ka Charlene. Ngayon tablol to ko mo do na merap tuluk. Ako tayo of course into ra held in the letal logical in fact nga la literature held was what's the leading causes of death in Micronesia. Al-adil milko sa discoordination. Yan aldo health sector sa discoordination. Tumlam sa data yung was no Micronesia is the biggest data cemetery in the world. Kadi kalekta data ang may makle de adomes. In fact, to this day, kadi kalekta data that we never see, we never get to analyze. So to spend the resources to collect. Makmal understand their sayid and malokoni understand how singe malgilinge silul deswell maumlat kela president mora PPUC. Hindi from an environmental sector akum da setil al view ma policy is a little bit clearer than on the social side. Makmal ska question how lo mesra the social side of PPUC makoteng tikul mora energy. Ngaral the swimmer madol it hasn't been said. Hindi nga kawadi ang taba movement kadal amaral bedulingi where the energy sector moving more private. A semi-governmental organization like PPUC amo procure from a private sector and how that translate el more cost of energy el more other ablo sumsem el kora di clarify do sumel ginel tilang kulumol mechera dilun.
It's a maluin question Senator. You're right. Even though my academic background are both anthropology and biology, so I appreciate the significance of social issues. Experience has been more towards the environmental sector. So I speak more comfortably on environmental sector, but not so much the social. However, a question malungit, and I'm gonna just throw it out there. You might not be politically correct, but as I mentioned earlier, the climate change and traditional conservation, the overfishing, and influence conservation at the site level. We improve behavior, fishermen, fisherwomen, pollution, and help revive population in that particular, let's say, conservation area. Climate change oftentimes is a source of threat not only locally but also comes from the international sector. Same thing with the evolution of our priorities of government mar adarabalu. Atong energy policy and moving towards the form of privatization. Perhaps that is something that be open-minded to whether it is the right decision, yes or no. I think we need to do some studies. But most of the time, we understand the government. Sometimes the studies properly done, information provided inaccurate, or sometimes in the time or to conduct those studies. Assume to go with that sort of model where we're reacting, and then assuming was the trajectory government mo privatize energy producers. I would still say it's not necessarily a bad thing. Of course, they will require a major behavior change or major policy change. Hindi no matter what the energy source being imported. Hindi government a cost for energy for the population. Sooner or later, households and individuals need to improve their behaviors and how they utilize expensive energy. Assuming di privatized, government, which is being oftentimes a policy being decided by elected officials, they need to eventually satisfy the voters. Cycle that's a short-term benefit, or in the long term, government, society, matamal. So, in short, I would say I would be very open to that, to exploring that. But I would recommend that take a step back and really make the effort to assess it with whatever means they have, and make decisions based on make informed decisions on that.
Sulay sa answer ka mal analyzed well, and the total ka dingul terrible for there. So terrible nga difference ra fossil fuel related energy production and what our individual other belaw malumang family mo o mesring. Now all of a sudden nakadamamla sils hindi sila rubakol Dios en mergid. Maktiri isol ngol do sumel was a Aurora PPUC in managing that transfer tel resource and mara other below. Understand there's a fossil fuel, which is it comes from somewhere, and gita ang ulme ultraringi. So I understand the elatial di sila blur below. Gukualaw the swim girel sa gid. Adungul rendering il mara private sector, and which I think the momesring ira di el sila 6 months or so when you're there.
Di radal man medi recognize ra senator sungin la journey ma presidente la senate el recognize journey es el que la cuartea una se sei dire la mo soy el cook plan blue bela ultra mo renewable energy ra tela years from now. Makadul mo sel kri la kada sa stat nga private sector. Nito malaringi ultra ringi say dia dire ko question por el bangaria PPUC lo si ay gang sabil man me clock clear ito mo o multringi ngartir multir mo ay gam ko kalsal mo la sel gombali ngara hindi kal fel merkal hindi ko para bord di sel gombali na lakin ra 14 cents a kilowatt for 20 years. Say dia dire kal isul mal bang la ul dire kal so bam ngol do swem bolsa pedal kay ng silo bolsa. La serto kwart.
So lang. Mutral and sir, everything as comprehensive as possible, but I might miss out details. Dim cut me in and clarify. I think in terms of the source of our energy, fossil fuel versus renewable energy, while sales is free, harnessing that solar energy require not only money but also kind of a specialized technology. Kado aku spe example ra umriga tasalokola. Asukum ko umriga tasalokola, then we don't need somebody else's expertise or funding. This is why the dryer. Now we need a store that provides the dryer. We need the electricity source to do the same thing. Belawal moving to renewable energy in one sense, even as one nation, and Balula needs to do its part to stabilize the climate. All of us will have an impact. So tegi di ako mal priority ra balul other elang. And in fact, this is why Belawa, the sooner we understand the situation energy situation and the sooner we can articulate exactly the better we're able to capture the support the international community. Are committed to reducing global warming. And part of the major strategy to reducing global warming, switch from fossil fuel to various types of renewable energy. Belao at that time with regards to privatizing source more private company and more renewable energy. Number one, I don't think we have a local company that has that specialized technology, so we kind of don't have a choice. Number two, our government commit 45% renewable energy by 2025. That's less than 3 years from now. The last report that did it in UN, just a little bit over 1% renewable energy. So we need to increase progress to achieve the renewable energy. And in addition to that 45%, President Whip's committed 100% renewable energy by 2032. This is all, in a way, necessary. We have no choice but to advance our effort. But expect to achieve that without the private sector, without modern technology, available at that time. I think maybe what we need to do is, while we're going to be needing this international and private sector, we need to understand enough to make sure Abela will ultimately be the net beneficiary. The private sector or just Brulat in general. While we do our part for the global warming issue, we need to, in the meantime, make the most of the opportunities we can get out of it.
So lang from the same clear. Still cup meeting in Egypt maybe a couple of months ago. Yeah, Mlaria side del meeting clear fossil fuel free future. Abelawa tara inaugural member understand that ng legal represent Senator Mong from the parliamentary side hindi mo lungila schedule understand that I guess chair silbarmal question ako niya kasi will there be a role for PPUC? Ihalip klutel do earlier say gid lang ngara tamna regulatory agency al mora Ministry of Finance. And basically oversee already la board. So is there any role for PPUC as you see it in the future? Say akum da sembang baram question na nga say as we play the puzzle. The mobile mortial renewable energy, I understand that. Ang ariya cost ra yaroy. Hindi girel de kalborbabra fossil fuel because the primary source is, I think it said. Hindi ko niya say what will be the role of PPUC as I see this movement lamubra regulatory power al mora government. Unless I'm wrong, malsumariya senators I'm not correct. Now, the same role of PPC even within the next 3 years.
Another really good question. I think ang maldigo klo role of PUC. For one thing, tela anle mandate the Ministry of Finance to be regulate what PUC is implementing. It seems to be limited to regulatory and oversight role. Hindi ka implement. Hindi ka ngod ang entity na government that I know of, al-mrula talura PUC. That means only PUC can fulfill. So say the Aurora PUC. Maybe perhaps what needs to be done right away is for PUC to be clear, between PUC and Ministry of Finance to be clear on their respective roles and respective expectations. So for example, one gap that I've seen, the commit the government to give to this so much percentage of renewable energy by a certain date, and it's the government personnel why kamamal mura international meetings and meet the donors, and all we can do is connect the donors and mura PUC personnel. Hindi ka strategy tier, hindi ka clear role tier to continue that dialogue. All we do is make the connection and go mo alam na mo urgent with the global warming situation, make them make like this very ambitious commitments. We need to be able to make the most of that opportunity to access and connect with the donors and mera PUC personnel. Perhaps they give the NDC, the nationally determined contribution that Abelawa committed to by 45% renewable energy by 2025. PUC would have to take the lead in developing that strategy to achieve this target. Ndaka expertise daka mandate the Ministry of Finance to do that for PUC. And alaka take the strategy, and ndaka PUC our personnel at PUC justify at the middle. Mga to our donors, hindi ka kabul mandated. So sige, one like very obvious area that I actually really hope hopefully fill in the next 3 years.
Sulang yak ti tulis sa yi dileng hindi ko kora mauwa at ang aregale. Kuldar siya imangal amarato ilya girekal masado ni madya girekal marutar ngi. Couple of years ago, the report CASP and all the issues that have to do with it until today, the Kabulmre. Minato was the Kabulmre, Abon Barbitara Fish Market, the Kabulmre. And it was actually in the hands of PUC. Makti Duli Sayidling, it's a word of caution, the record speaks for itself. So if PPUC is the only entity that you say is responsible for all of this, then something has to happen. We cannot tolerate kidal push envelope mora 2032. Margonye do veselo say a track record is actually not very dirga mawa ang redagire. Maktiduli se chair se dal question se di comment return la may lo.
Sulay fuerte. Para somin mga presidenta, taka somin na sungino. Oh, kaboy tawlon.
Saule chere, ako te Miss Mersai mo nga sulemen luwak mo din wasi kap to kagil albang le me kong tial tuwa se vice president ka igora classmate. Akatar trigger mo to mga tanong nga sa lilutul mga school magikuram no classmate hindi pwede sa alda di tiagita ako te sel ngartel babilngem sel wa ulega soaman mortiagi del teal sel ngartia ko saying hope to be in a better position to identify and channel financial and technical support to improve our services ra PPUC sel tel trabajo ngartia ko saying critical to our lives, livelihood, and economic well-being, a significant impact every single resident of Lurbelaw. Makaligil ko sa raom wesel sa magil ra PPUC ka omda sa obongin si eman mo ng sugid sumok. Siya ako tulge.
I think that's a really good question. Akmo special example ra Senator Quartel gira la CASP ma failure of PUC. Oftentimes, and I don't know, I would need to study this, but oftentimes the mandate institution a certain set of responsibilities, but we do not equip them with the right amount of funding resources or the capacity to have them deliver ready. So one of the things that I would really like to do is to assess kasi, for example, coming from the national government, I also had certain assumptions sa PUC giran makarang. We do our part to make connected tiral mura donors, and when that flops, go another donor, we start over again. I realized that was a PUC make sure to produce and distribute fossil-based energy source, not renewable energy. So nga mismatch executive branch and make a commitment to achieve a certain amount of renewable energy by a certain date, but they failed to equip PUC the needed funding and capacity to implement the gaygidir. In order obviously the government directly produce the energy, perhaps the Segidia would have been tasked to do that. Dindim nakangot other than PUC. So oftentimes I think it's just a lack of clarity, respective roles and responsibility. And once again, it goes back to data. Makata-identify a mismatch, identify gaps, and then hopefully with that, seek support to provide the capacity building and more PUC needed funding. And so that's my response at Wasi. First thing is to assess, clarify our respective role and expectation of PUC, Ministry of Finance, especially with the Office of Climate Change housed within the Ministry of Finance. So we all have to work together anyway. Assess again and mismatch, identify specific gaps and needs, and of those gaps and needs, determine are the low-hanging fruit, more achievable in the short term, medium term, long term. And hopefully, the information will feed into that strategy that I was dreaming about. Because somebody needs to develop this strategy, NDC, the nationally determined contribution, and I'm not hearing anyone starting that, and I think PUC would be the obvious starting point.
Startilal hensir kakti tiduli sil tukala service el borsel tigel adan mutmura tuangan los peangeso bibira tukul labong sel labo igel biling til bira time di armari kel kakare dia kasil magara ngadol rosit tial mesila kasam magarani di armari clean di longas abilar bibira time igal penalty ada ko ngalak tel hararngi isil labo tarap sulading mal dia kasil gora kul mona tukora setial kan pira gora ali dugul di angar dia kasbel sangar ya other belaul do ursel madalat tuang lawal dia kasbel sabaak ya tiduli sila se tiap palau public utilities corporation e oiti other belau daseng at least obam musutri adgirel say ongerum ka adra environment makamal gergi ka environment akno madina se trigel bigla PPUC ngara Renewable menurut agil chlorine adia kagir retir Teriak mo tuub lagi yang meradabe ito vals hindi lorut ringil dia laba imori rendia kalobal sak munta tirigel ngara suwem tirigel taklamo mastri to sete dia urol dia sel safety ki tire emrut am tar besul maka tergi ke environment tigal adel tirigel bo tergi ke environment ra urak ti other si segi de worka oponi ongerul lamsa dakti mo ko asik tergi kristial target tablo velan more renewable energy ekata transition more say aktiregal madio si silwal kora asa el mobile del tiang adul dege kristial mongungin din se lo takagil mon kakaraklo ludo ese gidel kakaraklo ludo abol roliwek kelmen mo ara la dengil mo at ese diregal mo gut mukli sel gut muklia Avengi burgi del giri advela tam oitar af le rala man la moimisil takase lo tugur af alora al mo times ya sum morsel blal delia sentor quarter sem private e kam dnya private they're going to make someone pay this sum public utility sel dul mo ringi tam oitar af actually tangi so se oversem e mesa se gidel tokol wasi kloto tirado de ged kan dilado de ged mo ulel esel berada mo berdira ada belal trigel ngasola mo dakas ilot pur sedi on tigel wala on ida kartia kamal duli sel say I consider the role of PPUC's board of directors as a heavy and serious responsibility makmal meringas gulem lo setia dia kal gora gak toy Mam na dula kwartak timo oy sisilo sengkal ngaligara kias pa rest in peace ra amdala CIP na mereka kamaldil ya omang kadal blal sa diri ka adir dol degat na blu bela ya udo da tiro to ya adam le albang ringi egit telo mesri al chils akmalon nito se apo tengah tempura abord ila kabol du ay gigi tial aral tiang tial haranya ar other belaw dia kabol har yak mutulatang kita other bela mo har sim se ong walon tia wase tolngi tangis mo owong ebom masutira igel school mo ura ang esal meliwet melmera melig igel relmil adir kabol sin melim to spell check e double check e uspe QP will check el ndakal quality sebel tiro spera school seklol el banglela igel lura babel daw may galik la babel daw hindi sige datara akbadgel klon ngara andi kasngila PPUC kukulunga orgi outdoor girel selo se sebera ralmel mena school e sanga igesel bera school yarangal ka muspe ya bolus pe ala kanung la quality ngi dire kan mero to environmental mom kit marang get mo sige tadi kudur sila se om dengan tengah tembong ebom mesatra ure la PPUC akmla mom matingil wasing ngarinya blel hiring na IQPB namol gora testa ralmo hopefully sige ta se el momot mo kundi se gotur ka clear gaw mo lobong tikpas ka se om gom katong tengah tembong egel kilsel aral ngarngi ngara imol tokol okmo mo mereken soma plan katmo kilsel so karong sirka bur wise.
I think, realistically speaking, the first thing that I would ensure that needs to be done, I get the assessment. La kuring sarakal gire la water quality ra mili gamrang SR. I didn't know about this. So kuman kamamal with access to grants, I think I'm aware I get the issues. I'm bringing kamama connect, although they're outside the meso that I given. So say the documentation. Of what we need would be the first thing, and I mean not just needs Rabalu, but I get the roles they need to be clarified. The sooner the respective roles like kakarostal entities are more clear, the quicker we can identify funding support, capacity support. So I would say really it's kind of boring, but it's critical. It's just documentation, assessment, and documentation of what's the situation, what are the needs. Identify hopefully the contact persons and follow up on that. So by the end of my term, we have documented issues and we also have some kind of an accountability mechanism. Tial for example, serious and that's edel. On one hand, Albulir other Belau with the rising cost of energy. The government Belau is doing what it could to subsidize Araladingi. In the meantime, government Belau not fail in ensuring PUC or anybody else delivered on this huge project. Okmo we did if we did it right, the accountability measures, perhaps PUC would not have failed this much. Some kind of way to prevent and minimize great cost. And so in the end, as mga government mo suffer, of course our other blue suffer. So if kadam long years perhaps although the lose more losses as either transfer increase although more health care or education, it could be distributed to other priorities ra government. So that would be my, hopefully to improve information management and number two, with that information made available, identify and hopefully begin accessing although they're outside. Then limited I'll do that. So we have to secure funding from outside.
Sula. Kabe Senator Singino.
Sula Chairman Malungil tasil se Mrs. Mersai, Miss Mersai. Dia kak umesetel aikal rogul babiel blem submit. Mesasel agumdas ng lagora mal klol sebagai lagora connect tra possibility possibility improve tokora sustainable energy ra lingala bangala PPUC. Leng kadungin banyak muka background ka gagit tokora environment e urelo bangala UN ra gel tokol grants. Gel transmit gel sustainable development goals. Mang akong daswing timuyo galba bilinga mende ng inaw the swexel kotang tokora clean drinking water sa one ra sustainable goals ra UN. E kadamadayak masya pelwada dir ka kalabor segit. So I hope pesel pong en sa emeling gari la bangala gigid rudo ra outside el help gid more meter segid el one ra goal ra UN. Hopefully sigid el connection ra mara gid to environment ma sigid amo sa emeling ra PPUC mo magarangal sigaw do del osugid el meter sel goal. Sing ngari nga ora akpayo gyud ra mo ngari nga ora all the summer girel.
According to the question in my mind is already thinking, we need to be clear on the expectations. Yes, PUC needs to do its part to improve our quality raralma, but I couldn't help but thinking our role of EQPB is equally critical. And yet EQPB is having issues as staff although the songs. So it's not, if I go there, Segit is what I'm hoping to contribute to. I'll do my part to help PUC as an institution, but because of my role as environment coordinator, hopefully I can connect the Gagitan issues with other agencies that are also critical to the success of whatever issue. So take the Mulgoringira, water quality, absolutely. It's one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals that Bela Amlek commit to. And so multiple levels sa that access to international, regional, of course national. And then sometimes even when we have access to funding like a grant, hindi ka capacity ra agency bela mumungat mok like alurio. So it's not just identifying a funding source and writing the proposal. So those again proposals amrado, for example, to help build the capacity ra PUC or EQPB. As home to the staff fertile mo take on again BSL activities, and that's a very more part of the grant. And we've learned that. In fact, the EQPB recently a big grant environment and we were talking amongst ourselves the earlier round miloit pollution. We wanted to focus on the protected areas network. To do everything, so say the one round I'm focus on PAN, and then I will available a second cycle. Again, prioritize invasives pollution. Invasives milit mo grant other environmental rural pollution di milde miloit lindim naka capacity ra PUC to prepare that grant proposal, and by the time we found out about it, not only get about time to prepare a proposal, PUC it's lost a lot of its staff. Masaygi the available grant namo 3 years dedicated more PUC was never accessed because hindi ka capacity. May akadungun sang may film na niya capacity til. Alis abela dim nakalusot sa ludod. But what that meant is abela pollution remain neglected, water quality remain neglected because the institution to rather rely on just so happens to not have that capacity when that money became available. And these are the puzzle pieces that we need to hopefully put together quicker, and it's all reliant on information. So, yeah, I'll definitely do my part, and I already have several, I guess, opportunities and will help it improve our quality. But it goes back to assessing. Ngara mga tamalmon madirakaring issue ra water quality rigid rebelaw, and why states ra imiligan mo ang esa ra ang issue tira bebira states ate, or maybe ding direct issue da ko tangay.
Ya sulang malungila analysis cartel customer kalgirel sel tora connecting the outside grant and the resources outside the trial help pergidel improve. So you got ngilu say the point bal namungis modi. Ang ngerong sel number 8 sel, how do you describe the current performance of the Palau Public Utilities Corporation? What strength, weaknesses do you see in their operations, and what areas do you think to be improved there? Ako mtas yung ngiling sel gumasta en sel yung reminder ka already ka sa sports. Because it's similar. Dia kal samal mo sa ngilin samal mo ngemesang. And then you understand the matrix of kung makarangal measure a performance natir. I think that's very important talang sabi di minitak la problems di omyorni di suko man dia ka dabado nil dang okle the measure ar ultoy. Ibado ngit mo dang arger. And then to start from there and make a correction sa line up our local strategy and bring lagi damit ta goal sigit so kam lutul koral mutun malmok mal umsode mo sigit bay.
In fact, when I Sarah Kulis tell response it's from a personal experience. Ling namlo teral times like for a meeting outside the climate change. Yeah, because of the increasing attention on more renewable energy. Manito ka approach rebelaw delegation and offer a support to our renewable energy related opportunities and so a connected till more our other PUC more other Palau Energy Administration. One next year or even between then my next meeting and the follow up or other outside the follow up. And so I felt like already the follow up the like qadi connect sa qadigir ding da kasap marut awrior. It was only much later that I had time to because of the renewable energy priority no start the cloa conversation gire la energy rebelao and then I had an opportunity to module other PUC a bit more my other Palau Energy Administration and then I realized that this is an example of one of those mandates of kasi ngal aliw clear daka provision of support and so nga alguk tim la ko dingay akmle unfairly judging them alwase kami ngam daka marulay ka lurior opportunity marmanya daka it's because ndaka expertise where are they going to say to maybe mneke ka mga dadu or border instead of the personnel dimla ka mechanism or say or maybe because at the time hindi ka po the prioritize sa renewable energy kita balur adam la prioritize present kita amla ko ngay hindi ka filter down on more technical like as it was years later we started outside the urban energy from south. So but the reasons that inhibit implementation of RIOR. And when I said this, I was actually thinking of exactly say the experience ng other energy. I feel like I got opportunity in Marmanye. I've done my part to connect them with you. It's the example of EQPB. Hindi ka capacity to absorb the opportunity or receive it when it was offered. If we were aware of this back then, we probably would have helped them, but we didn't know. And so a personal lesson that I was using I would like to understand the metrics being used. So for example, the CASP, we really should not allow another big cost like this. I can't say kasi DPUC, I'm sure Rebira branches the executive branch ang nga a roller tit. And if you really want to minimize another CASP failure, we need to understand ngarangam the issue at hand, ngarangam the kosagal issue, and then target. Hopefully all in one go. Then dira ka nga limited capacity the executive branch ng like part ringi. So yeah, I think say it stems from when it comes to national related initiatives, oftentimes there are multiple players. The target ringgil gora lead player. A team doesn't work like that. A team has to work together somehow. Yeah.
Aldilas the chairman kada mo sel alas tel gora kali ka since obamal attempt to tigil to renewable energy mumla mo nga solar panel surveyable pa player af oy mbran lakata power ating giringel af sekot di problem el gisang ak masenggang hararalon lingilulo to tayak toy so wal kakre el harar ngira dengi ding hararalon ri atu selbada amil dengi el mula tura PPUC adira katamel off awan regal generator ramasil mandigo osisip kunga alu adult turingi so say the measurement the same what we trying to achieve because lateral help para adal mohara gagal dengi ding mil el alone ngira dengi so ungkora de gisang mas how are we helping or how are we meeting agal renewable energy goals el blada settle ngara madal so I hope at tayo tu kamo or omis sa gid al anggal mo. So ngara ka tral maruringi. What are we trying to do? El at tayo gid besul kong balim la metmun ma charge sa 14 cents ngara ba expect to malbol wa tinga adrabulu lang. Ngado ko rali dra adrabulu hindi still at tagal. Mo kay kada dingil harar hindi harar alo no. I'm sorry ngadi gisa nga sulang.
Actually, I have a direct story about that. Ablima marangarmida recently became a recipient of the loaner solar panels. Prior to getting this solar panel, I can definitely say household mamamla benefit, including paying the loan. So, sir, before I give move more solar, gingamlarasing again token, it was around 200 a month. Ilanging less than 150 a month with the loan. And that the loan mo paid off in 7 years and already. So already the first month gimla filler benefit and then over time it yang adimral mo mangal mo. So I can say take the initiative ngil income in terms of cost saving in a household. I think it also helps kasi tiyan kadala la solar energy available. We're capturing that, so that's great. Where I'm still not sure and take it what I need to understand is PUC is actually not necessarily gaining. Ako rin so kasi because sa kamamal household amla mo magagarea payment ra kamam bay na mo klo cost ra PUC ro takar child burden and like I said asukuma government including PUC amo klo cost ringi ultimately it comes back to the citizens so we need to and I don't really understand that was saying the baby ra ada direct solar am sa ta okman na mo ngarbaba arala dengi in overall let the palo not pay dengi and then there are talks that was it comes back to behavior change tirigay long mas solar because that that's kasi to reduce to increase the number of air conditioning in their household all mangguk more baba arala dengi but yeah it's all hearsay we don't know kasi ngarang facts but I think it's a given earlier conversation at the end of the day kada move more close solar energy source but let's not forget that other blua that can lose out and that's speaking directly to the household level but also to the government level and mo clock costing and ultimately blua mo take up the burden
kamal sulara ka insir ka kamal mle hito sil point say el point of mong behavioral change amal sabigal di attest el morileng akmara mirror imora token sa para togen misal kutungi tial ludo e gumeserngi yak mostat lo falait lesal nga mirror ndim la kutungi makti nga sel soa mang I think nga igegi mbigal toy but it's a behavior change esel lo mesrnya adeng dirikal mo conscious tial spending ringim sabel adjustment sulang
kam koras mo disel to koraral me untuk kuasin kirel
Chair ge oger tale mlania bill introduce mora lo asepol sa del meter segi del clean water by I think it's 2030 say imregel STG mora iput et tegi del dir kala iput el merela
sulat tamal diri ko besel kami tim na mo umre del maurur Kaya ka kumase nabigyan mal karira senators. Kaka tigal pa bini mal small di blatak small deal was ikaw nga silo sige maigil gukso ang molat kal mogutmok lo gila gira PUC. Akti sige diligera 40 the man ng tanga talaga siya plat elim mo outside sabi mo ganek tayo idil gora ang esor nga outside del may. Akti dulit ya lang gale kiyo hiring lo bigla ospital ya toktang adire ko lulger arado ospital asi kami ko labam civil akranta le tirgawa igel akranta giren ngaringi al bolongot mok le tirgawa di longot mok kortial krantingal tel administrative part at grant mendia ko ngel wasi igal granting men mo iterge mangrang mogut mok Makti duli segit masing kautial wase ke dirikal masan mon morengel mo ngara le gutmok lagi rogul ngaran mo sabel mo dili del mon mo gutmok mo sabel mesar del. Mo ndo se ya dirikal mal ngir gaw. Resulta metial wase ka mo 100% el renewable by 2032 al amal misal gora amre de mal ambisyoso el toy. Hindi kailangan mo subirse el tugara private. Hindi lagi tegi del goto el gombalil melwal will provide el 20% el mora tel PPUC. Mong mo subil at least sa segi dalbog mong subil madawan ramasil. Magad mo sa ibalu. Usil time en 14 cents el 20 years. El volor tel PGST tinggal base el segi del 14 cents mo queda 10% tangi mora PPUC. Es el bang PPUC ngun maskid. Makumasay gigit al abibira isul adira kal gida man mamilomes. Lagadilo kwase di ka nga besel teknologi mgire del la ospera adan nga outside. Kwase gal teknologi ka available a magit trablulat. Gida igel program ra ni Zealand ni lusel solar morang ayangal. Ati idel bigira piusil luluror tel dengi burang ayangal tirkay gida obrero segi del solar. Yo meserngi mo spera so igal bateril mo mosel mo kem den guk kalklia generator generator a charge mo mosbelen guk tinga dir kamil gol gen guk kalmut mo idel mo batteri makora dir kal na mo subir seguido los gem no se nagire del bilda capacity rada. Kung seguida lagi del drive mo ringal sum suadal mo at renewable energy. Hindi ka sabi del mon depend ra. Igal kong balele di mer mamoger tiremra lagi da alungor tel. Kada mal kong tel do sem hindi kada dire kal kainga seulo aseto si garolel. El bol clock la PUC e de tren mal sum kada mo tren ngal gede de start or top ngal gede mo training. Umalas kulir marmel sib ilo ruta ya gidel special technology. Ako di duli sa gidel ng kadidungul mortial gas pa amne 28 million ang mal naringi o musubul mo ringil sa ikakita moklet tiya gidaran. Esera lungal bal statel bid out ringing lang masara laklalo et tira malmal bid out ringing mangwapolo ng song sa bebin. Ako na sing ungin manager la stober nyo se kale de sa de kas pedo ngutial mo telera manengel de telera la kas pedo gut maklil mo ngin nagire do stober ngi mergo ese kira rogo malu be ko ke kringi tel project mo aterak lu ngelaw do merang milmol ba project mo mere ngare igal toilet lagi ngara tilal drongle tema posta misel ngara long island. Ay kaya di na kami nasabihin, malukong IDB rewrite at tiyal, lo na si med nga igal, finish at tiyal, klol, suwer at tiyal, di na finish at iyaw do. Ebe igil toilet maulun. Ako ra di o misay gigit ako sen di na ayor management man la tigil kukar adrabor mo sabil uro lang kala management la si med ka do sa igat gatmok. Yala kay gabol tele mo telmele de kasbet gatmok. Ako adit mo igigid lahat to asing tospera tilal milyon mo connector tial dit amin na to basi ya tiragal legal bomba nga tial CIP man tiragal kong ngarinya namru lable hindi ka bomba alsel may game tiragal lagi mo mismo ako radi mo igigid lo asing mal lobrado aurora PUC ito ka mundain mo eka mo ang ako segala mo angal ng gagita Senator Tabuluan na tergok lamal betul tukor kau lo sega gagita abo kamo gutmok la makadamal dio segida umno sa sen agire la amon mal lowrior lo bangela olbira ko lawleng El time nga niya, nablel sen ng ilmer nga propose mo raise aral ma ra order may ray. Lela sen il raise aral ma order may ray. Ay gigidil ral ma outside order may ray, dekal raise until ang mo ngila quality ray ral ma. Mun kora dekal fair sel domes ngin girela piusil sel mrusel am legir stat lo rol mot moklay gigidil. Water system na igil bulu kasi bol subel mo ngil mal bol subel mo o sisiu aral ma melang aral makakaros di aral dengi o sisiu ra rogul bulu mang ang lam solar mundite sel igil selul takalul mo ngamle telara tal ra ke di elan di taratar lul takalul mo nge di aral dengi ti kahara o sisiu hindi mo na-reduce ta cost tir. Ako masay gigit ala dire kalungil isul apa ko dire kalamo mes ka hotel wasing kireman mal mesay gang assess formula record del mal mongil mo sabi del follow up ay garo. Mak dire kalo mo era adubara ulo ko le dire close tum sa ala senator tabarbar.
So le vice kami kakara imo to jadi kudur sin le worko masum ko tengah te kamo ang tanatokol alin tigen nalge del pel hartir el mirror readers al vivir tira lo godin la set tourore em no sim la casa PPUC ma digritir mem gunita se obong bol sem ko ram sa sigid ku ko tokora development employees tegel ku altat sois pel ku dia credential certir e bol sil ko ra ulo lo ventril encourage certir lo la clase lo uror masbil wala tawrul way segid el guk maangari la tokora ulur el samok la tokora skuli dem sedita role la mosil lawrur dem la class makpangal tiar terul lawrur ay mortira mal di mlaw reading e takan to dra PCC la mombre tri bo mesa seguido se tara garung te al le mo rulo bantira tri to ko ngal gedak patnya tabul ol so isel kurang lower end nanti segid el bolo la class en si el move abra to kora urure expand sulang
ke pangomda sen adi gida na digal mutul model ker malubeng ora statement lego ma kiba maskate alam do igel kora mo lubong statement talaga kung ay budis marital hearing
Sulang, I think maybe it's a request and more Senate. So one of the things that I think said that work together quickly is whatever assessment we do right away. I'm sure more nga a policy recommendation, a proposed bill. So sukumakmo so is ngarang ngil ko timeline for PPUC to offer you a proposed bill or something so that I would have that timeline to work with the board. I think in Batoka gaps that we need to improve. I don't know what they are yet. And then I think if I get in, I understand in 5 years period duration term I would really hope to, the same way I work with environmental agencies, I really hope to work closely with the OEK. And that would be in the policy sector, maybe improve our awareness effort, for example, increase the efficiency. Kada mal gora attention to more renewable energy, develop direct nga commitment ngira energy efficiency, and say ospe klol tora policy change direct. So if a PUC board must submit a proposed bill, is it the first 3 months or first 6 months? So what's kind of a realistic timeline for me to work with?
Musan ang idil time mo ready sa bill submit me and then go role makal. Putmok like requester kami.
So one of the first things I will be doing is working with the board to come up with urgent gaps that need policy. Okay.
Anytime. Naungay. Matagi mutong tal Miss Mersai man mga sulem tal kilngel tal appointment tra presidente dire ko ngel me attend tal confirmation hearing lo game. Ergau magi meringa sulem metti al diring kita di mertegi de masim sulam.